Five.
Hey everybody, Ryan McGee here, senior writer of ESPN, and we are so excited that you're joining us tonight I want to make sure I get the title right because this is the inaugural outing. This is our first ever North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame student athlete program virtual panel. And I'm honored to be a part of this. I'm a proud North Carolina native. If you listen to Marty and McGee, my show on ESPN Radio that I do with Marty Smith, then you know we joke that I'm the Kenny Chesney of hometowns. Kenny Chesney can't pick a favorite sports team, and I can't pick a hometown because I've lived in Rockingham, I've lived in Shelby, lived in Raleigh, lived in Monroe, and now lived in Charlotte for more than 20 years. So North Carolina is my home. My father, Dr. Jerry McGee, is a North Carolina Sports Hall of Famer. And tonight we are going to be joined by two members of our newest North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame, also a longtime member and a member of the board of the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame, and a young man that many believe one day will become a member of the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame, though his college career has just gotten started. And a reminder, you can visit the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame anytime. There in Raleigh at the North Carolina Museum of History. Admission is free, so come visit the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame, and it's a proud history of this organization. And tonight we are excited to kind of start a proud future for the Hall of Fame. And that talk starts with discussions like this one. And thanks to all the parents, all the students for joining us tonight. We're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about what it takes to get to the next level as an athlete, but also what it takes to get to the next level of life. And a young man, the first member of our panel who has embodied that spirit, joins us now, Will Shipley. And of course, I live in Charlotte. I live in Matthews, North Carolina, and just down the road is Weddington. And Will Shipley was, if you lived in Charlotte, you heard a lot about this young man nonstop. And the question was, where's he going to go to school? Where's he going to play football? 5-star recruit at the top of most people's recruiting charts. And now he is a Clemson Tiger. North Carolina High School Football Player of the Year, 2019 and 2020. Will Shipley joins us now. Will, wrapped up spring practice. Summer's coming around. How's everything down in Death Valley?
Oh, I'm absolutely loving it so far. I just want to start off by saying thank you guys. Such an honor to, even be included in this. But yeah, it's been great so far. Been a great first couple of months, and really looking forward to the future. Going to be a fun season.
I've heard about you, man, since you've just gotten to high school. And my daughter goes to Providence, so don't hold that against me. But we'll continue. We'll get to you in just a second. Next up on our panel is one of the newest members of the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame. And I lived in Raleigh in the 1980s, and I saw Debbie Antonelli play on the hardwood. It might have been a tartan surface then at Reynolds Coliseum at NC State. For those of you that don't know, she's a Cary High School graduate. Grew up in Cary before Cary was cool back in the day. Now it's like where everybody wants to live. Played for the legendary Kay Yow at NC State. Won an ACC championship at State. 4 NCAA championship appearances. And most importantly for me as a broadcaster is my teammate at ESPN, longtime basketball analyst, Debbie Antonelli. Thank you for joining us. And so when you played at Reynolds, I grew up there. I grew up in Raleigh in the 80s. Was that like the old tartan surface, or did you have actual hardwood back then?
I totally played on the tartan, Ryan. It was my knees and my hips are feeling it today for that reason. But boy, Coliseum is beautiful now. I wish I played in it now. It's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. And anybody that goes to Raleigh to see the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame, you need to get. If you haven't seen Reynolds Coliseum recently, it's unbelievable. I went for the first time. I went to cover NC State and NCAA baseball tournament a couple of years ago. And they walked me over to Reynolds, and that was not the building that I saw Huey Lewis and the News in back in the 80s, right? I mean, it's amazing what they've done.
It's beautiful. They've done a great job.
It is. And Debbie, we're looking forward to talking to you tonight. Another member, a brand new member of the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame in the class of 2021, and a guy who lives just down the road from me. In fact, the last time I talked to Muggsy Bogues, I was in his house. We did a story for ESPN's news magazine show E60 about Muggsy and his relationship with his brother Chucky. And Muggsy, of course, you kids know him from Space Jam. You also know him from his legendary years as a guard with the Charlotte Hornets, among other teams in the NBA, and also came down to North Carolina from Baltimore, Maryland, to play at Wake Forest. And, the numbers are crazy. It started nearly 80% of his 632 games he played for the Hornets, holds franchise records for the Hornets to this day for assists, steals, and minutes played. And I remember him at Wake Forest. School records is 781 assists, 275 steals, and almost 1,000 career points. Muggsy Bogues, proud Demon Deacon, congratulations in getting to the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame. How's everything just down Providence Road from where I'm sitting right now?
It's pretty good. As you know, we had a little cold day today, a cool day,
Yeah.
I should say. But it's great. I'm just happy to be part of this panel. I mean, you got some amazing people on here, and I'm just grateful to be amongst them. You just read off all those stats. Woo, did I do that?
Yeah, you did. And I was there. I mentioned seeing Debbie Antonelli play at Reynolds. I saw you play at Reynolds back in the day, and it was. And I saw some of these points and assists for the Deacons.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I remember that Coliseum down there. We have to, during the timeout, we have to go in the hallway in order for us to get our instructions from our coach because it was so loud in there. So yeah, I remember that very well.
Yeah, you had the crowd like hanging over you in Old Reynolds Coliseum. Yeah. All right. Well, we appreciate you joining us tonight. And the final member of our panel, and I promise this isn't going to be all about me, but I'm going to tell my stories. George Williams joins us now. He's been in the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame since 2000. uh, legendary, and I can't use that word strong enough, legendary track coach and athletic administrator at St. Augustine's University. And Coach Williams, I went to Enloe High School and I was on a track team, and they used to send us up the road, and I would run through St. Augustine's just to see what y'all are doing at practice. I mean, folks, he's coached in the Olympics, multiple gold medalists, over 40 Olympians, and of course, been a member of the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame since 2000, and also a proud member of the board. Coach George Williams, thanks for joining us tonight.
Ryan, thank you, and it's nice meeting you. And your father and I think he's one of my best friends. I tell you, the chip don't fall too far from the stump. And I hope we have a great night tonight, and I hope we can encourage some young people about what education means and what athletics mean. And thank you guys for inviting me as a guest of this show. And Deborah, I started out in Cary. I coached Vance Hefner, Wade Cooper, all those guys, and Raji. So I've been around for a while, okay? And I've watched you, and congratulate you on your success. And Williams, man, you're gonna make it, baby. I'm looking for you in the lights, man. You keep it on. You're doing the right things right now. I always tell people, God didn't make winners or losers. He made choosers. You made a good choice, young man. Keep going.
There you go. That's see, Coach, you already coaching us up. You only been talking about 30 seconds. You already coaching us up. I'm fired up. You may want to go run the 800 again, except I'll probably blow out both of my hamstrings. We'll start with Will Shipley. Will, you're the youngest member of our panel. You were just in high school, it seems like a minute ago, and I want to ask you about the challenge of being so heavily recruited. And your name was attached to every major college football program in the United States. And on top of that, we were stepping into the middle of a pandemic. When you look back now on your senior year of high school, how were you able to balance that?
Yeah, it was really tough, especially with me, having to make the decision to leave early and go to Clemson and, forego my senior year of football. It was really hard, and making that decision to attend Clemson University over all the other great universities that I was speaking to. I'm just really blessed that I got to create so many relationships. But I think at the end of the day, everything always works out. And these past couple of months have really shown me that I think my family and I made the best decision that we possibly could. COVID or not, God led me into this path, and I'm just very thankful for it.
Well, when I use the word leadership, what does that mean to you? I think about your outstanding coaching staff that I know you had at Weddington, your family, and now obviously Dabo Swinney and arguably one of the greatest runs in the history of college football that they're having down there. What's that word leadership mean to you?
The first thing that comes to mind is elevating the people around you, whether it's on the field, on the court, or off the field in academics. So I think it's just, making everyone around you better in any way that you possibly can. Because if you do that, then, I think you can easily be distinguished as a leader, on your sports team as well as, off of the, sports field.
Debbie, I'll ask you that same question. As someone who went just up the road from carried over to NC State, but played under one of the great leaders in the history of basketball, in Kay Yow. What's that word leadership mean to you?
I think Will summed it up very well. And Will, I'm looking forward to watching you at Clemson. My middle son is a senior at Clemson, so we're going to be rooting for you to have great success while you're there. And Dabo is unbelievable. He's a great guy. But Ryan, I think when you're playing in a team sport like we've played in Muggsy and William and myself, servant leadership is part of being on a team and part of being a leader. So you serve the game to make your teammates better. And I think that's what William was talking about. And I'm right there with Shipley. I think for a young man to be able to say that, I think, leadership to me is having great vision, being able to communicate that vision. And when you're playing on a team sport, you're always going to be on a team, and you have to understand what your role is, and you have to be able to accept your role while you're working to change it if it's a role that you don't want. And so I think leadership is about communicating that vision and about being a servant leader. So serving the game to make the game easier for your teammates. It's all the detail inside of playing on a team.
Muggsy, when you came down to Winston-Salem from Baltimore, and you're the young guy, but then as happens with all college athletes, you became the leader of that team. And in the NBA, you came in as the short guy, and is he even going to play in the league? And after so many years, I mean, I lived in Charlotte. I know what you meant to this city. What's that word leadership mean to you?
Well, Will and Debbie summed it up perfectly well. I mean, it's all about accountability, but more so about inspiring. You know, we all have different type of qualities of leading. Some people are more quiet, some are more example, some are more vocal, and I was more vocal. You know, I felt like, you know, I was given that gift in terms of how to communicate and how to understand how to communicate with others, because everybody is totally different. You don't want to, you know, say something totally wrong with a person who a little fragile. So you got to understand who's around you and how you to communicate with them. And for me, as a point guard, I had that understanding. You know, where to get people the ball to be successful, and that's one of the things about leader and on and off the court, being able to be accountable, but at the same time, you got to do the work as well, because if you're not out there leading the way you're supposed to show example, then others not going to follow.
Coach George Williams, what Muggsy just said, I think, is one of the most underappreciated part of leadership, which is understanding all the individuals and
Right.
understanding who you're working with. As a coach that's had hundreds of athletes on his rosters over the years, and so many with so success, what was your approach to leading so many different personalities on every single team?
And you have to treat them, each personality different. And one thing about leadership, and a lot of people get it mixed up, because sometimes people have positions and think that make them a leader, but that doesn't make them a leader. What really make people a leader is to have somebody to do something, and that everybody's willing to follow that example of what you are doing. And like Muggsy said, that, you know, I played basketball too. I knew as a leader, and my teammates knew, if I was coming on a fast break and I had two guys coming, I'm gonna throw the ball to the guy who got good hands, not the guy who I know who don't have good hands. That's like throwing it out of bounds. And people begin to follow you. And then a good leader is the kind of person that have a relationship with people. You got to know how to deal with people and have a good relationship. And when you have that good relationship, people will follow you. And when people follow you, then you're a leader. But just having the towel, you're not a leader until somebody's following you.
Well, then, Coach, I'll follow up by asking this: when you're recruiting athletes, and when you all these years that you've been talking to young people about coming to St. Augustine's, you know, is that something that you're looking for? Are you looking for a team full of leaders, and the leader at that high school and the leader at that program? Is that who you want on your team?
I look for people who fit the program in which I have developed. And those kind of kids, they're going to be good leaders. But I always tell my kids, if you want to come to St. Augustine's University, you have three things to do: academic first, athletic second, because it helps pay for your bill, and a controlled social life. And you cannot mix those up. And a good leader, he knows that he got to get his books, because he's not going to be eligible to do anything. Then he's not going to be eligible to get your financial aid or your scholarship, and your social life is going out the window. And so I always talk to a kid. I tell a kid in a minute, you can run a 9.9. You might be fast, but you're going to class, okay? And kids love that, because I graduate 95% of my kids, and they see that I'm concerned as a leader of all these kids. Hey, go to St. Augustine University, because coach is going to make sure that you get an education first, because I always tell them, I can't teach speed. You have to bring that with me, but I can control speed, okay?
Will Shipley, no one's ever had to coach you on speed. You got plenty of speed, and that included on the track. How has that balance been from you, from being the leader of your team at Weddington High School, and then going to Clemson? And man, that's a team full of All-Americans. And what was that balance like for you? And also what Coach is talking about balance in academics and balance in athletics and in a social life.
Yeah, going from a high school team like Weddington, where I was the main leader on the team, to a place like Clemson, like you said, it's just got a bunch of all Americans, on the field, off the field, and I've really had to try to find my spot, and I think that's kind of a metaphor for life. You always got to try to find your spot where you can contribute the most. So that's really what I've been trying to do, and to handle academics and athletics, it's tough, but if you have confidence in yourself and you use the people around you, it makes it 10 times easier. So just never be afraid to reach out, ask for help, find your spot, find your ecosystem, and you'll thrive in that.
Muggsy Bogues, what was your experience like when you, and you and I talked about this when I did this E60 store a couple of years ago about moving down from Baltimore and the transition. What was that like for you making that move south to Winston-Salem?
Well, it was a culture shock for one, coming from the inner city of Baltimore and then going to Winston-Salem. But it was such a growth for me as well. Being able to meet different people who didn't look like you and how they interact and how they kind of maneuver through life. You found some that was more in your corner, and you found some that wasn't in your corner. So that was more of a learning experience for me. But I had a strong belief in me and where I came from and what I wanted and what my vision and my dream was. Then I wasn't going to let anything that deteriorate me from that. So I went down there with that perspective, the right frame of mind, to understand that this is a place where I want to try to excel. And I know it's going to be challenges. You know, nothing much success doesn't come with adversity. So I understood that I had to, make sure that I was grounded enough within myself in order for me to move forward.
I want to remind everyone that's watching this tonight on Facebook Live, you can hit us up with questions right there on the Facebook page, and I'll relay them to our panel members tonight. And Debbie Antonelli, when I am walking onto a campus and I'm covering a baseball team or a basketball team or a football team or softball team, the first thing I do, being the sports writer nerd that I am, is I start watching that team as a group. How do they operate? How do they communicate? What do they look like on the bench? When you are in the arena with all of these teams like you have been for so long now, what are the things that you look for when it comes to what Muggsy's talking about and Coach is talking about, Will's talking about all the pieces fitting together?
Well, if you're talking about general game prep, right, Ryan, to get ready to prepare to call a game, I mean, there's so many pieces that go into it. But when I'm in the gym, I am watching body language. I'm watching, are they communicating to each other? When the coach is speaking, is everyone watching the coach and listening? Does the coach use a whistle? I think that's really interesting about whether a coach has a whistle around their neck or not in practice. Meaning, does their voice command attention, or do they need the whistle to get the attention of the team? When they go to timeouts or they're working on situational offense inside of practice, do they use a grease board, or is this just a tweak or something that a coach has already taught their team and they're just trying to make a subtle change to an angle on a screen, or maybe a twist on a screen, or some detail of the game? But I know from being around the gym for a long time that I'm not just watching the players and the coaches, but I'm also watching post-game. What do the parents do when their kids are done playing, and how do the parents respond to the kids after they're done? Is this a parent that is, putting their arm around their kid and saying, great job, or are you watching this parent just absolutely rip their kid's face off for something they did or didn't do in a game? So all of those things come together in putting together what you would call a personality about a team and what they look like. And those are things that I enjoy. It's the subtle things that you pick up as long as, you and I, Ryan and Muggsy, have been in the gym for so many decades, following the game, coaching the game, playing the game, covering the game. Those are some of the things that you naturally pick up now, because it's just subtle things that you're looking for.
Well, and Debbie, I'll ask you this. What was that experience like for you? You are now a North Carolina Sports Hall of Famer. You played for a North Carolina Sports Hall of Famer in Kay Yow. Well, you may not even realize it at the time when you were 19 years old, but when you look back, what did you learn from Coach Yow about what you're talking about the right chemistry with the right people at the right time to create a team that, won an ACC championship and went to the NCAA tournament 4 years in a row?
Well, the first thing is we're people first, not players, and respect was a big part of what we did. So you had to respect your teammates and you had to learn how to get along. So there could be some differences or things off the court that maybe you didn't see eye to eye on something, but when it came time to play, you had to set all those aside and you had to learn how to work together. So respect was something that was really important to her. Also treating people the way you want to be treated, and just being a good teammate. And being a good teammate to me is picking up for your teammates, caring after them, holding them accountable, making sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, help somebody that needs a little help. And she expected us all to do those things to form a really good team.
All right, Will Shipley, I'll ask you this. Everybody, I know Dabo Sweeney. Clearly, you know him. But people have a perception of him, based on what they see on television or whatever. Honestly, he's pretty close to that. What's your experience been with Coach Sweeney taking all of these athletes, all these 5 stars like yourself, and putting them in a room and winning 12 games a year?
Yeah, my experience with Dabo has always been amazing. All throughout my recruitment process, these past couple months where I've been at Clemson, he treats everybody the same, and you get what you see. He's not gonna act different in front of different people, and that's what I love about him is he's through and through, and he's gonna tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. So he's a great leader. Like you said, he takes all these great athletes and he's able to transform a team that loves each other and just wants to compete for him for each other. So he's pretty much perfected his craft, and he's just a great guy. Like I said, you get what you see.
Coach Williams, I asked you this because Debbie and Muggsy played in the ACC around the same time. Will obviously just now started school. I'm somewhere in between all that, although I wasn't an athlete. But how differently has your role changed, or has it changed of how you handle athletes when you talk to them in high school now versus 1975?
Oh yeah, it has changed because you have a different type of student. In the beginning, everybody worked hard. They want to persevere. They want to endure. They felt like this is the way out of whatever they were in. And from recruiting, if I recruited a kid from Miami, from over town, he don't want to go back there. He want a way out. And now the kids now, they feel a little more entitled to stuff. They feel like that they must have this. This belongs to them. And you have to treat them in a kind of, like hands off or soft hands. But I never went to the soft hand style. I'm an old school guy. And I'm like William said about Coach Sweetie. Hey, you got to be you. You got to be real. You got to let them know what they're all about, what life is about. You still love them. You got to have that mean love. That love that they're looking for. And a lot of coaches don't realize that the kids are looking for that. Every student athlete want to be in a special position, in a special treatment. Not that they want you to always, they say, well, coach, I need this and you got this and they got this. No, they want you to tell them how to be successful. Somebody said one time that in order to be successful, you have to keep the construction going. And that means you got to work all the time. You never stop building. Once you build one wall, you got to put a top on it. You build another wall, you have to keep the construction going to be successful. You just cannot make 4 tackles and think that's it, run 1 wide out, or catch 2 touchdown passes in a game. You just still got to work on the construction and keep going. And that's what I try to teach my student athletes all the time. And I teach them character. When St. Augustine walk to a track or go to a track meet, everybody's saying, oh, wow, this is St. Aug here. We know these guys are going to be very technical. They're going to focus, and they're going to get the job done. I think I won 9 championships with 6 people because they knew they had the job to do. And so, and they kept their character. They didn't go around saying, I'm happy to be a champion, I'm happy to be here. Because once we win the first championship, we concentrating on the next one. We don't worry about that one. That one gone.
You know, Ryan, if I may, I just want to pick up on something that Coach said, because today I was fortunate enough to give the commencement speech for NC State student athletes that were graduating. So they had a virtual commencement for 100 plus student athletes that graduated from NC State. And while I was preparing my notes, I was thinking about something Coach just said, and I think Muggsy and Will, I know Muggsy with his career, I always felt like I didn't really, I mean, I chose to go to NC State and play for Kay Yao, but more importantly, she picked me. And by her picking me, there was a responsibility with that and accountability with that because she was such a legend and she held people to such a high level in all aspects, on and off the floor. I know Dabo is like this. He definitely is like this from the times that I've been around him. You know, I feel like I have a responsibility and I want to be accountable to making sure I carry my weight, and not just as a student athlete, but after, which is almost equally or more important when you're trying to, you know, help create that legacy and you want to do things the right way and create not a legacy for myself, a legacy for her, because we're the extension of what she wanted us to be. And I think about what an incredible extension Muggsy is and what an unbelievable job he's done in his community over time, not just his time in the NBA, but he coached in the WNBA. He has given great service to our game. And Will, I'm so excited about the future for what you're doing. And then, of course, Coach is a legend. So I just thought, you know, I would just add that because I think there's an attitude swing there. It's not, you know, that I chose NC State. It's really that NC State chose me, and with that comes some responsibility.
Yeah, it's a great point. And Muggsy, when Coach said that about he wasn't a soft hand coach, I was watching your face and you're like, you started smiling and nodding your head. And it's interesting because I understand that there's a new way of doing things and a new way to treat athletes. But I mean, Will Shipley will tell you, Dabo Swinney is an old school coach. And were you an old school coach when you were coaching in the WNBA?
Oh, you have to be, and coach, and they hit it right on the nose. I mean, because you got to continue to be yourself. I mean, that's what you learn. You can't learn stuff and then all of a sudden try to teach something totally different. And put people really respect when you're you. And when you got different type of athletes today, and coaches alluded to it earlier, that kids feel entitled. And I don't know if Will feel that way, but it's just these athletes today where they want it instantly. You know, they want that instant gratification as opposed to have to go through that process. And I'm quite sure the mindset allows that to go there. Early on, you know, AU I always felt like it was more of a, you know, a corrupted grassroots program that was going on because they're not really getting taught. It's just games, as opposed to getting the information, working on it, and becoming the best you could be. Everybody have a different way of getting there. And I'm just so happy with how Will was able to, you know, accomplish his goals and being able to, you know, fulfill his dreams, and now taking his talent to Clemson. And I don't know why I would not Wake Forest, but, you know, Clemson, I understand based on the talent and the ranking and where they are. But it just, you got to be yourself, because in order to get your point across, you got to get them that tough love. You know, you got to be able to give constructive criticism, because a lot of kids can't handle that these days. You know, they always feel like it's just criticism as opposed to constructive criticism. So if they're able to handle that and able to withstand that type of coach, they're going to be successful going forward regardless.
Well, so Will, I'll ask you this. All right, so we're a panel. I'm not going to say old, but we're more seasoned when it comes to life than you are. So I'm going to ask you a question about your generation. Is it difficult when you've achieved a certain level of success like you did in high school, and you're on ESPN, and you're at the top of every website, and social media is going crazy about where you're going to be? How much of a challenge is it to stay grounded? Maybe not for you, but for your contemporaries.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think it's a challenge that, you know, a lot of youth face because, you know, you get some success and you do things that others may not, and you get complacent. you think that you've accomplished more than you really have. And for me, what I always try to do is just put myself back to the place where I hadn't, accomplished everything, to a place where I knew that I had to work my butt off to get, where I wanted to be. And I do have to check myself sometimes and say, you've made it like this, and appreciate what you've got, but you want to go a lot further than where you are right now. And going back to the leadership, part of it, as a leader, you have to remind your peers and remind your teammates that if you win a state championship or a national championship, just like coach said, that's in the past. Move on to the next one. So yeah, I think it is tough, but I think in order to continue to push on and always have that just thing in the back of your head, like pretend like you're all the way back to where you didn't have anything, and that motivation is going to come.
And that's a challenge, and when you've had success and what you see around you. I listen to Trevor Lawrence, who I covered extensively at Clemson, and obviously was just the #1 pick. I always felt like Trevor did such a great job of not keeping a chip on his shoulder, but keeping himself motivated. Even when everybody was telling him as an 8th grader that he was the greatest thing in the world, maybe it's not a chip on your shoulder, but it's keeping that fuel burning, is it not?
Yeah, 100%. And to talk about Trevor, he just does everything for the right reasons. And that's another thing that can really help to push you. If you're doing everything for the right reasons and for the right people, for yourself, then that motivation is going to come, and it's going to kick you in the butt if you're not doing your thing.
Talking about that motivation, we're getting questions on Facebook, and those of you who are watching on Facebook Live, you can send us questions. Muggsy, this one's for you, kind of in that vein. What was it like being a student athlete that didn't fit the mold, and what advice would you give to young athletes who also may not fit the mold? And obviously, we're talking about the fact that I don't know, people may or may not know this, you're kind of short.
Well, yeah, I mean, not only that, coming from an inner city and in Baltimore, that standard probably, can kind of fit as well. But, for me, it's all starts with confidence. You got to have that confidence within yourself. I always go back to what my mom said: no one can be an expert on your life. No one know your potential, know your capabilities. So you're in control of your destiny. And for me, as a student athlete, I understood the balance. You know, we was fortunate enough, early on to be able to get that national attention, being the #1 high school team, growing up, for 2 years, and having the type of players that we had on our team. We had 4 guys that made it to the NBA. So we had to check our egos at the door. And Coach did an amazing job of constructing that and managing those egos. But he preached student athlete, early on, because people don't realize back in those days, the terminology that was floating around was dumb jocks.
Right.
And he made sure that that wasn't going to be his kids. And he really instilled us the values, the importance of an education. And that was one of the reasons why a lot of us was able to make it out of the area that we came from, to move on and become successful.
Yeah, and people have a tendency, unfortunately, to roll their eyes at that student athlete term, but that's what it is. And anyone who spent time on a college campus and really seen what these athletes are doing, they are absolutely student athletes, whether you think they are or not. And so, Coach Williams, it kind of in that idea, what characteristic, and this is a question for Facebook Live, what characteristic, Coach Williams, do you look for in a student athlete?
Well, normally when I go to a track meet, and I look at a young man, I look at the way he carries himself, I speak with their coach, and I don't look for the guy that's winning all the time. I look for the guy that's look like he's just trying his best, that he's working as hard as he can. And usually those are the kind of guys that I get, because I know I'm not going to get the #1 guy at St. Aug or the #2 or 3 guy, because they all want to go to a major university or something. But the guy that I get, I know that he want to be successful. I can tell. I can look at a kid fighting, and I look at a kid when he finished 6th, and that's all he has, but he's still down. He felt like he should have been #1. And I just look at the kid demeanor and look around And sometimes I follow them around the field and see, how they communicate with other people, other student athletes, and all of those things. And those are the kind of kids that have done well for me, because I can get a kid that run 48 or 49 in the quarter, and I've had many of them, and I've had 12 kids that run 44, and they sure wasn't running 44 in high school, but I happened to pick the right kids, and they improved and they worked hard and they got good work ethics. And I talk to the coach sometime about them, because the fact that you're going to get different views from coaches, and you're going to get different views from everything, and sometimes the most important fact to know anything about a kid is talk to the parents. The parents will let you know everything, and they won't tell you, but they'll let you know, and they don't even realize they're telling you, because most parents, want their kid to be successful some kind of way.
Well, all right. So that leads us right into another question for Facebook Live, and this is for you, Debbie Antonelli. You have 3 boys, right? As a parent, what do you do to support your kids, not just in sports, but also in school, and this balance? How do you be one of these parents that Coach Williams is talking about? All right, that's who I want with my team.
Well, my husband and I have 3 great boys, and I have a Special Olympic athlete. For those that don't know, actually, Will, my son's in the Clemson Life program. If you don't know that program, you will get to learn about it. He's a senior, and I know he'll look forward to meeting you. But, I think the balance and the rhythm of life allows us to have lots of opportunity. I like my guys to be happy, healthy, and involved. As long as they're involved and they're making good choices, then I'm happy with whatever they decide to play. I do have one college athlete, a Division II point guard at Emory and Henry. My youngest son plays, and he would use Muggsy as an inspiration, because he's a smaller point guard, and he would be somebody that they might have looked past because of his size. But triple-double in his last game isn't too bad, I would say. But I think I'm one of those parents that I don't have conversation with the coaches. The only time that I would speak to a coach, and I tell them this up front, is if my kids are not being good teammates or they're not working hard. And if they're not being good teammates and they're not working hard, then that's when they need to have a conversation with me. Otherwise, I'm not going to sit up there yelling, call timeout, or put my kid in, or take my kid out, or run this play. I've never done that. I don't anticipate doing that. As a matter of fact, I sit and try to be as quiet and as still as I can, so nobody knows what I'm thinking. I think it's better that way. And we foster an environment where you can play. We know how important sport is. We know what it means to the overall health and well-being of having well-rounded kids, and we keep it in perspective. And the guys have done a good job so far. They've all made good choices, and we're really proud of them.
Yeah, I think about Archie Manning. I mean, he'd go see Peyton play, and he'd go see Eli play, and he would almost be camouflaged. He'd have his hat pulled down over his eyes, and he'd be tucked in there in the corner because he didn't want anybody to know who's there.
I think that's the best way. I think it's the best way to let your kids do what they need to do. Now, if they ever had a problem or there was a discipline issue, then, I'd be happy to step in. But outside of that, I think that they handle with the coach. The other thing too, I never went to any coach that my kids had and said, what is my kid, why is my kid not playing, or what does my kid need to do to get better? That's on my kids. If my guys want to be better, then they need to ask. If they are really invested in becoming better players and better athletes, and that's on them. It's not anything that I can do or can't do. I'll try to fuel their confidence and fuel their desire to be active, but we are not going to be 5-star athletes around here looking for a D1 high-level scholarship like what Will's parents had to deal with. We're keeping it in perspective in a whole different way.
And that's Deborah, I like the way you said that, but you have different kids from different environments, and that's one thing you really have to look at, because the fact that I knew if I went to recruit Deborah's kid, I know she would be, with her background and everything, that this kid's going to walk a straight line. But if I get another kid from maybe, say, over town Miami, whose parents working on Miami Beach at the Fountain Blue Hotel making up beds. Now you got a whole different type of student athlete. And those are the kind of kids that you really have to mold and really have to love, because the fact that they want to make it, because some of them get out of that situation and some of them can't get out of that situation. And if Muggsy Bowles tell you, he's talking about, he's come from Baltimore. You know, a whole lot of guys probably could have been to Wake Forest, but they couldn't get there because of circumstances. And he the one that made it out. And there's a lot of them didn't make it out. And so you have to be real careful, and you got to look for those kind of kids. And I've looked for those kind of kids too, because they are eager for success.
Well, Muggsy, that's something you and I talked about when we did the big E60 story a couple years ago about your brother Chucky, and we talked about family a lot. And you talked about your family, but you also talked about being a dad and how important a role did your family play, and how was it for you on the flip side of that as a parent when it came to athletics and wanting them to have the best life possible past that?
Well, I mean, just like any parent, you want the best for your kids and you let them follow, their own way. And that's what I did with my kids. I have two daughters and a son. So my daughters, they got involved in basketball, and maybe they wanted to play a little bit because their dad played, but they didn't take it seriously. And I didn't push them anyway. They played volleyball. And then right after high school, they went on and became just students. My son, he dabbed around with basketball for quite some time. Him, Steph Curry, and Seth Curry, they grew up together and they played. But once he got to high school, it just something there. Maybe it was because of the shoes he felt like he had to fill, or whatever the case may be, that he took a different path. So I didn't really. Again, I was just like Debbie. I let them choose their own way, and I wasn't one of those coaches that went down there and told the coach that why my son ain't playing, even though he was out there playing quite a bit, or the discipline area, because I knew what type of kid he was, and anything go wrong in terms of his, like Deb said, he had somebody not being a good teammate, and that sort of stuff, and he's not doing what he's supposed to do, working hard, then we need to have a conversation. But other than that, I would just more or less just, letting them follow their own way. But I just want to add what Coach has said about in terms of folks didn't make it out. I mean, he hit it on the nose. I mean, there's a lot of the best basketball players we ain't talking about who weren't able to make it out of a certain situation because of their environment and certain situations they was faced with. So, again, there's a lot of kids that's out there that didn't get that opportunity.
Well, we talk about having to be self-motivated, and I've always gotten this from you because of where you came from. And because you wanted to get out of there and make a better life for your family, it didn't take a lot to motivate you when it came to that, did it?
Well, no, it didn't take a lot to motivate me, but the thing that really held me down was my dream and my vision and the passion that I had for the game of basketball, and then the action came behind it. But I had a guy that really gave me that information, and myself and Reggie Williams were like two little sponges soaking it all up. And by having that, it gave me an avenue. It gave me something to really think about, it where I can maybe make a difference for me and my family. And, I was one of the lucky ones. Unfortunately, I got shot at the age of 5, but I was one of the lucky ones that made it through. And, we was able to, we was able to pull off one another. Me and Reg and ourselves, where we kept each other grounded, focused to where we wanted something more and more for ourselves and us, for our families.
Well, how much of a role, and seems like an obvious question, but how important has your family been, and was your family, particularly when you're going through that process of being a 5-star and everybody calling the house and sending letters and all that stuff all that time?
Yeah, it meant the world to me to have that support. It was huge. Both my parents and my older brother, they were like support stones for me. I was able to go to them whenever I needed to, And it's a long process. Being heavily recruited, you got things coming in from every which way. But to have that support system where I can go to whenever I needed it, it was huge. I honestly don't know how some kids who don't have that support system go through that process, because it's really tough. So I'm very thankful for my parents, my older brother, and it plays a huge role.
We're continuing to get questions on Facebook Live, and I want to say this: Forest Hills High School in Marshville, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte, right near Wingate University, where my father worked forever. They're the winner for most registrants for this event, and as a result, their athletic department is going to receive a bonus check from the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame. So thank you to the Yellow Jackets. I was a really bad radio play-by-play guy for the Yellow Jackets for about half a football season.
I love it.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
right. No better than that. Come on.
that's when I realized I don't need to be doing play-by-play. I need to be a writer. From Facebook Live, the question for you was, what advice do you have to your peers? I mean, your friends who are still in high school, you were just with them, when it comes to pursuing their dreams to play college sports?
Yeah, I think a couple things come to mind, with that question. I think one of the first things would be consistency. You have to make sure that your actions are in line with your vision. You can't, want to go play college football Monday through Friday and then, not have that same vision, not have those same actions Friday or Saturday and Sunday. Dedication. I think the only person that really knows if they're giving it their all and, like their actions are in line with their vision is yourself. So you have to stay true to that and, show dedication. And the last thing I would say is confidence. You're going to get a lot of outside noise, people telling you that you may not be able to do what you want to do or reach your goal, but you have to have that inner confidence. You have to believe in yourself, because, that's where it all starts.
And Coach Williams, this is a question I've had for you. What's it like? We all watch the opening ceremonies for the Olympics, and we all dream, man, I'd love to have been there. What's that moment like? What's it like when you are participating in the Olympic Games?
Oh boy, that's a feeling that it's kind of hard to explain because it's so emotional. You're representing. You walk in there and you realize that you're wearing the red, white, and blue, and you're representing 350 million people, and maybe very few of them know your name, but you know that you want to do the best that you can for those 350 million people. And every decision and everything that you make, you want to be sure that you represent your family, yourself, and this country the best you can. And to see the people who made it, I mean, out of 350 million people, you got about 100 and some people marching and representing this country. Oh my God. And the most important thing is that when you get on that podium and you hear that Star Springer Banner, the national anthems, man, you can't find anything that's better than that. And I wish the whole world, the whole United States of America can experience that. Boy, would this be a great world? Because that is something that would tear your heart to pieces. It's love, it's togetherness. Everything is there. Everything that we always strive for and look for is right there in that open ceremony walking. All of us together, one nation. We love each other. We're going to fight for each other. We're pulling for each other. Everything that is done in that Olympics, that red, white, and blue, USA, USA.
And as a coach, what's it like for you when you see a young person's dreams come true? And it's because of the position that you put them in, or it's because of the way you coach them or the advice you get. What's that like for you as a coach to have that moment you promised in the living room? This is what we could win a championship together. When you see that happen, what's that like for you?
It lets you know that God has plans for you and you're doing something right. Because of the fact that any successful coach is never about them. It's all about the people that you're dealing with. And to see those folks try to be successful in their dreams because being the coach is my dream already. So most of us coaches have already achieved our dreams, but to help other people get their dreams, it's a feeling, you know. I just feel like every one of those athletes, everyone that's come through me are my family, are my kids. And I feel so humble about the parents who send their kids to me to be able to take care of them, because I treat them just like I treat my own kids, because my kid had to go somewhere too, and I wanted people to treat them just like I would treat their kids. And I'm quite sure all coaches are the same way, and I'm quite sure Will at Clemson's going to be treated just like his parents would have treated him. And because Jimbo, I mean, he's a winner. He's a winner. And winners have something special about winners. And you can't explain it. You can't write it down in a book. You can't tell everybody how to do it. People ask all the time, how you win this, how you win that, how you do. Hey, if I knew, I would never lose, but I have lost, you know what I mean? And so it all comes up to the individuals and the communication, and like Deborah said, and the respectability, the character, all those words that you can put in vogue, it comes to that. But to see any student, not only mine, at any university, achieve their dreams is very heartfelt. It's very heartfelt. I love it. I just love to see kids be successful.
Well, Will Shipley, I'll ask you a question then, kind of based on what we just talked to Coach about, which is the fulfillment of dreams, but also that fulfillment of that moment. You know, you posted that fantastic picture for Mother's Day, hugging your mom's neck there at Death Valley. But what's it going to be like? All this talk and having to get through the pandemic, all those things. When you touch Howard's Rock and you come down that hill to a full house on a Saturday night when the balloons are going up, what do you think that moment's going to be like?
Just got chills from you even talking about it. Got a little bit of a taste of it during the spring game. Limited capacity, but I've been dreaming of that since I was a little kid. So, since popcorn football, and when I went to my visit to Clemson, that's one thing they always emphasized was Howard's Rock, running down that hill. So I can't wait. I can't stop smiling just thinking about it. It's going to be definitely an experience I'm going to be able to tell my kids about, and I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. So yeah, I definitely can't wait for it.
Well, and we talked to Coach, who's already in North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame, Will Shipley, who I believe one day will be in the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame, and now I'm going to talk to our two brand new Hall of Fame inductees. And Debbie Antonelli, what was it like when you got the call that said you are inducted into the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame? What did that mean to you?
Well, first of all, I was very surprised and very, very honored. And then I heard who else was in the class, and Muggsy, somebody I have respected, I watched as a player. And of course, I knew him in the WNBA, and all the other inductees in the class. It's a very humbling feeling. But the first thing I thought about were my parents, because I know it would mean a lot to my mom and dad, who were very supportive of all of my endeavors from when the time I was a little girl to playing all the different sports to finally recognizing that women could play basketball in college. You can actually get a scholarship to do so. And when I saw NC State sitting on that railing in Reynolds Coliseum when I was in 8th grade, that's when I decided that was what I wanted to do. And exactly what Will was talking about. Every decision I made was about trying to make sure that I put myself in a position that Coach Al would pick me. And getting a chance to go in the Hall of Fame makes me think about my family. It makes me think about her, because I know the incredible foundation that she helped my parents and Coach Al helped create to allow me to have the career that I have had, covering college basketball for over 30 years and covering professional women's basketball in our country. This is the 25th anniversary of the WNBA this year, but the ABL the 2 years before that. So I've had quite a streak of covering women's professional basketball in our country. And, I just feel grateful, mainly grateful, very humbled, but glad that I can share it with my parents and my family and friends, and extremely in awe of the rest of the class, including Muggsy.
All right, Muggsy, then I'm going to ask you the same question. What was it like when you got the call and said, congratulations, you're in the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame?
Well, first, when I was told, I thought, when they say I was being inducted to the Hall of Fame, I thought it was the big one. I thought it was the one that I was on. I was on the panel. But I'm so grateful. I mean, Debbie just touched on it, how humbling and grateful I am in turn just to get the call. And I know my mom's up there just smiling like, from ear to ear. Her and my sister and my dad, just up there just enlightened about that I have definitely, got this call and I'm arriving. Just brought back so many memories, all the naysayers, not believing that a kid at my size could play this game and, to really, to I don't want to say to put it back in their face, but just to let them know that, the game is meant for tall, small, the game is meant for us all. And I always carried that motto. And, for me to accomplish this and to be, going in with these inductees and at this particular time, I mean, I'm just so humble and grateful that, I'm here to be, to be honored like this.
Well, I'm looking forward to the night, and I think this night's been great. And Will Shipley, Debbie Antonelli, Muggsy, Coach George Williams, thank y'all so much for joining us tonight. And I think we've learned a lot. I know I have, and I appreciate y'all's time.
And thank you, Ryan. And I want to tell everybody, and each one of these panelists can tell you, tell the folks, don't look at the glory, look at the story. They all work hard to get where they are. Okay? Thank you.
Hey, that's a coach right there, y'all. And if you want to know the stories, as always, go to Raleigh,
Right.
go to the North Carolina History Museum and visit the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame. Doesn't cost anything, and all you walk away with is a life full of lessons. But thank y'all so much for joining the panel. Thank you to everyone who joined us on Facebook Live, and I say we get together and do this again sometime. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys. Thank Coach, Deb, Will, good luck.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'll be pulling for you, William. Let's get it
Appreciate
done.
everyone. It's an honor to be on here with you guys. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Remember, I started out in Cary with Carl Mills shaking his money in his pocket.
I know some of those guys.
Take care. Love you and love everyone who made this possible. Take care.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Coach.
y'all.
Right.
All right.